What is up, guys? This is Mecha, and by the time you are seeing this, we've hit 3,000 subscribers on this channel. I could go ahead and drop a bunch of cliches about how this channel has come from nowhere, or how I never expected it to get this big, even though 3,000 isn't really all that big. Or I could talk about how much your support means to me, which is true, but you already know that, because I say it like every video. So instead, I just want to get into the celebration that I have planned for this video. So I found this weird FAQ, this weird guide for FE6 hard mode on IGN and GameFAQs, and I'm going to read the best parts to you, and I'll criticize it where it should be criticized. Let's see, when was this written? I don't even know. So it's complete apparently, all the way to the end. Let's just get into the introductions. Blah, 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 blah. Apparently this guy is known as Unknown1. That's kind of a dumb name. What's with all the underscores? Why would you have a number at the end of your name? So many questions. Let's see. He wrote it because they all seem to be about normal mode, so he wanted to write a hard mode guide since those weren't really around anywhere. He likes a challenge. That's good. I like a challenge. Unlike many other walkthroughs, I have actually outlined a team with supports. Probably the best possible ones out there. Supports in FEGBA. Oh dear. He prefers not to waste weapons when it isn't needed. Well, you know, that's a pitfall. I wrote this walkthrough during my own first hard mode playthrough. What? That sounds like you don't know what you're talking about. This could be bad. At least he warns about not using personal experience as an advice thing, but if you write your whole walkthrough on the basis of one playthrough, it sounds kind of contradictory. I don't know. My hard mode team. Okay, so he's used one team throughout all of hard mode, so he knows the best team. Roy. Obviously, I raised Roy since he has to be close to the front lines all the time. Well, that's bullshit and probably a bad idea. Alan and Lance, the Cavalier duo. Alan will usually have more strength, while Lance tends to hold up or end up with more skill and speed. But both have a reasonable amount with two N's in all these stats. Together, they are easily the most valuable units throughout the entire game. Well, that's just bullshit. You know, first of all, one of these, Alan and Lance, is going to promote late. So, if you don't have an early night crest for one, then that one is obviously not going to be the most valuable unit. And two, they are not the best units. Or how about Clarine? Mounted healer, the most unreplaceable, not irreplaceable unit here, besides obviously Roy. Soon enough, she judges about everything and provides Rutger and Deke with a full critical bonus, while healing allies and after promotion kicks butt with anima magic. You mean that anima magic? Like, what? How is Clarine unreplaceable? I mean, I get that she's the only, mounted healer, but she's not unreplaceable. She's not that good. Or how about Rutger? Provides big herdings. Herding sounds like something you'd say if you're in middle school or something. Or how about Deke? Rounds out the best support triangle in the game. I mean, support triangles are garbage, because supports are garbage. One of the main axe users later on. What does that even mean? A bunch of slow supports, blah, blah, blah. Oh, I like this one about Dayan. Dayan isn't as obligatory as the other two nomads. But he can help you out a lot. Yeah, I hope he isn't obligatory, because you only get him half the time. How about this one? Percival. The only really good pre-promotes. Well, that doesn't require any further comments. Or Fa. While she can only attack 30 times, she can dish out a lot of damage at once, and she's forced to be there in the last two chapters, so may as well raise her a bit. If this guy's still around, I made this episode of Fire Emblem Pitfalls about the final chapter, and why you don't have to base your team around it, so maybe give that a look. Or this about the thieves. See, Chad is the best thief when he's trained. His bases are bad, but his growths are very good. Wait, but bases are more important, especially for thieves who don't fight. You even acknowledge it. None of them should be in a fighting squad, whatever the fighting squad is. Possible variations. Percival and Fa are great fillers, but obviously optional. Okay. Klein Ray. Oh yeah, Sol, the best bishop in the game, can be a pretty good secondary healer because Clarine is irreplaceable or unreplaceable. He doesn't have any worthwhile supports though. That's just bullshit because his Dorothy support is pretty good, right? I think this is what people are waiting for. Borst and Barth make nice tanks when trained. Barth has accuracy and speed issues, because Borst doesn't. But Borst is hard to raise early on because of the many axe users. General is one of the best classes in the game. Yeah. No. Or this one. OJ can be about as good as Deke, though his bases aren't as great, and he loses 1 AS from an Iron Axe after promotion. Those are really his main issues, that his bases aren't that great, as opposed to absolutely terrible, and that he loses 1 AS after promotion. A usable unit as any. Then this guy wrote an FAQ. Because people frequently ask this guy questions, apparently. This is a good question for our Roy Marth in this game. I find myself asking this a lot on, Twitch chat and stuff. But there was a really good question somewhere. Oh yeah, I am stuck in chapter 7 or chapter 21 or chapter whatever. The best way to tackle a chapter is to read my whole story about it. Oh boy. Some modesty would be a good fit here. And then taking it on again and again until you've beaten it. So basically the story isn't good enough on its own. You also need to try again and again, because either the strategy isn't good or it's RNG dependent. If you still won't succeed, take a break and try again later. Changing strategies may also work. Yeah, no shit. So basically, try my strategy, but if it doesn't work, then change your strategy. That's great advice. I love it. Should I use this or that unit? The best units have been outlined before. Generally, all of these are good choices, while the rest is not. But Marcus? You didn't name Marcus anywhere. This site, this guy is tackling common misconceptions. I can get behind that. Contact information. Some things I do not want to see in my inbox. Spam, lead speak, really, really bad English. Any language besides English and Dutch. I don't want Dutch in my inbox, guys. Helpful suggestions use lot. He owned for me. He capped strength, speed, and resistance, and HP. Yeah, that is a bad suggestion. I'll say that much. Okay. I think this is general common sense, but there's a lot of people on the internet who lack it. This guy is just throwing shade everywhere. Okay, so let's get into this walkthrough. I already read through this for a little bit, but for the most part, this is my first reading. I like this part. Clear the rushing enemies, visit the village, and then work on your supports. Alan and Lance have priority. Keep them next to each other for about 30 turns and get that C support. Roy should support one of the Cavaliers as well, or Marcus. Who wrote this? Model Omega? What the hell? GBA supports? Make sure Walt doesn't stand next to anyone except Borst, because the amount of, again with 2 M's, of points you get for a chapter are limited. Yeah, you really don't want Walt to get a support, I guess. Want to get all the support points for 30 turns. If you wish to train Borst, because why wouldn't you? General is a great class. You should try to go for Archer, because everything else has weapon triangle advantage against him. Kill the boss with Roy, Alan, or Lance, and seize with Roy. Good luck with that. Oh yeah, you have to trade away all of Ward's axes, because we're favoring him over lots, because we're limited to using one of the 2 warriors. We don't want both of them helping out. That would be a bad idea. You don't want to give Deke many kills, because his bases are high enough, and he gains less EXP, so you don't want him to steal EXP, I guess. I like the boss killing strategy. When you're nearing Root, position your supports accordingly, and massacre him with the Armor Slayer. Roy's Rapier can put in a scratch. I think he does 4 damage at base or something. And so can a well-supported Alan. How well-supported can Alan be in chapter 2? Next, chapter 3. This map gives you a nice break. I actually always found this chapter kind of hard when I was new to FE6, so this is a lie right there. I like this advice about killing the Cavaliers. Roy can put a great hurting into the Cavaliers with his Rapier, but you should conserve it a little, because it doesn't have that many uses. Yeah, that's 25, so that alone accounts for 25 Cavaliers, which covers all of the early game. And then you get another one in chapter 7, so this is bullshit right there. Something about Chad and EXP. Yeah. Okay, so Lou can support Chad, but again, it is probably more beneficial to complete the Cavalier Roy triangle first. Plus, you do not want to support your thief, I guess, but LOL supports. Plus, Chad will be replaced by another thief later with higher bases. So, I thought Chad was the better thief if you train him. but apparently we're not training him now or something. I don't know, at least this is good advice, but it's like contradictory. Oh, there was another good thing here. So about these Cavaliers, well, they come to you and run into your living shield, which I guess means your fighting units. Get Lou and his friends to your main party. Using Marcus can speed up this process. You know what else Marcus can do is speed up the process of killing things instead of using him to rescue and drop Lou, who isn't really that good in this chapter. Okay, next chapter, chapter 4. Oh boy. About Clarine. She comes out of the castle as an NPC, a NPC, I guess, on turn 4. Will walk towards Roy and talk to him, then join your army. You cannot talk to her, and enemies will not attack her until she joins your party. Okay. They actually never attack her. Like, have you never tried it? I mean, I guess it's fair that you never let Clarine get attacked, or put her in range if you haven't, like, experimented with it a lot. You don't want to reset over it, of course. But this is what happens if you write a walkthrough on your first playthrough. Actually, it's not his first playthrough of FE6, it's just his first hard mode playthrough. So he could have tried it out in normal mode. What a fucking scrub. About the Cavaliers. Their high movement can mean death for fragile units like Alan, Ward, Thaney, Merlinus, and Wolt. So that's bad. But what's even worse is that they will double on untrained boars. Yeah, that's really bad. But if you raise boars, he can block a bridge. So, better make sure you get speed, I guess. Just, roll the dice, make sure you get speed. Just rig the RNG. Oh, he actually waits for the supports to come. By now, a bunch of Cavaliers will spawn at your starting point. Take care of them with Lot, the Cavalier duo, Roy, Deke, and Rutger. So, no boars, I guess? Okay, about the shops. Buy fresh weapons, fire tomes, and heal ones. Get a few iron bows as well, even if you're not training Wolt. I wonder what this is for. I guess it's for Sue. You'll want to stock up a lot, as you won't be getting armories and shops for quite a long time. This is like chapter 4. You get shops again in like chapter 7. I don't think it's that long, but whatever. For supports, start forming a triangle between Deke, Rutger, and Clarine. Rutger Clarine is a pretty fast support, while the other two are pretty slow. You won't have more than a C for a long while. Yeah, these are like the slowest supports possible, I think. Like, they're like base 0, 1 growth or something. Eric isn't easy to kill at all. A great way to take care of him is to let him shift between his javelin and steel sword. What? Let him switch weapons? Why is that good? Like, this is the worst strategy ever, but it's just so weird. Yeah, this is basically an advice that goes for the entire guide. Take this game slowly and you will have little trouble. Your Cavaliers should at least have a B support by now, and with great forces in Deke and Rutger as well as a better healer, Clarine, you should be able to dish out enough damage. Oh, I get what he means. Thaney should rescue someone who is of little use and fly out of range, because, Thaney is a bad unit, apparently. Rutger and his HM bonuses make him able to weaken if not kill about anything. That's just such a weird phrasing. What are you, Dutch? Keep Clarine out of range because she can actually get one hit KO'd by one X swoop. What is an X swoop? Is it like what Hector does in FE7 when he's promoted and he has that weird ass animation? One critical at the wrong moment from Dory's killer axe will cost you, and you cannot use Lou either. Unless you do some sort of rescuing chain. Yeah, but that's too much to ask. Marcus can help as well if you're really having trouble. Boris, Lot, and Marcus can make good fillers, especially Marcus. Kath, a female thief, will appear in the corner in the south. Trap her there with a workless unit. How about, do you mean worthless, or do you mean a unit that's like unemployed? Like, I don't know. I don't want to say Mexican because that sounds racist, but that's what it sounds like, worthless. Okay, this is about Sue. One of the chests in a room on the right contains a short bow, which you can use to raise your bow level quickly. This is FE6. Weapon levels work differently here. You only get 1 weapon XP for the short bow. Roy can support Sue in theory, but it's a very, very slow support. Well, it didn't stop you from recommending Lou, Milady. Chapter 7, hardest chapter in the game, with the possible exception of Chapter 21. What you need is luck, good supports, good strategy, and more luck. Well, this guide so far hasn't provided any of these. This chapter is chaotic as hell and requires you to rush when you cannot afford it. or cannot afford to. The problem is simple. Noah and Trek get raped? Wow, savage. Like, man. What a great vocabulary. By nearly every enemy in this chapter, and will commit suicide nearly all the time. How about you just recruit them, like, turn 2? Because Chad is never going to survive this chapter, bring the door key from the village in chapter 4. About Wyvern Riders. As their description hints, their weaknesses are bows and magic, and their use of lances mean axes might put a hurting. What's with all the use of hurting? Only a well-trained Lou, in combination with Marcus or Zealot, or I guess his name is Jared or whatever, with a good axe will really hamper them. How about you use a bow? Oh, I guess Sue, Walt, and Dorothy probably won't have the strength to take them on, and are going to get targeted by enemies all the time. So don't put him in range. Use a steel bow. Does like 20 damage. Don't bother bringing a fragile unit like Saul or Dorothy. They're going to die, or do next to nothing, wasting space and or experience. Yeah. Force, however, is perfectly fine. A possible option is to say screw it when Trek dies. Excellent strategy. Oh boy, we're waiting out another batch of reinforcements. It's definitely not over though. DVS will mumble something about reinforcements from the south, so heal everyone, send the non-fighting units like the newly acquired Cavalier duo north to get the loot from the villages and prepare for a Cavalier assault. Oh man. Wow, he actually recommends like waiting out all of the waves. Damn. But Lelina, you can control her from the start, but she and Roy can talk. That's not how bot works. You know how a bot works? You don't have to rush this chapter. I had a feeling you would say something like that. Okay, so about the knights. One of them carries a horse slayer, a vulnerary, and a door key. You can try to steal some from him, but you won't need the items. It's good for EXP. A mercenary, an archer, and a soldier will appear. Do not try to fight these with Borst or Barth. You can just end the sentence right here, because you don't want to fight anything with Borst or Barth. Wow, some actually good advice for once. Bringing Thany in this chapter, which is 8x, isn't a bad idea if you know how to keep her out of trouble. She can transport people everywhere for a quicker finish. This chapter can, in theory, be used to train Lelina, if you insist on using her, but it's not recommended for players new to hard mode. So what are you? You beat it once. And at this point, you haven't actually beaten it. About Fear. Her 25% strength growth can screw her up, but for the most part, she's a good unit. I hate that misconception where like a low growth supposedly screws you up, but really it's just generally a unit with a low growth that gets screwed also has a bad base. It's kind of like a pitfall thing. Oh boy, more turtling. Let the ballista run out of arrows with a meat shield, or take it out quickly. Well, at least he gives the option of taking them out quickly. Lelina should do the same with Gonzalez, recruiting him as soon as possible, but you should let him walk into your range instead of vice versa, because he will attack anything that comes his way. I love the capitalization of anything. Another weird sentence. Clarine should always be brought into in this chapter, even if you didn't train her, but since it's recommended, you did, so that shouldn't be unexpected. Huh? I mean, I get what he means, it's just a weird structure. You could bring Thany, but she will be more of a hinder than a help. Yeah, good one. Lalem, dance with her when you can for EXP, and she can be a great help for getting Clarine to Klein. Just for the EXP then? Not because dancing is broken? Who wrote this? Blazing Knight? The Calavry from the north is easily dealt with. The Calavry. I used to make this typo when I was a kid. Then I learned it was based on, the word Cavalier. You can let Klein support Deke and or Clarine if you don't want to let these two triangle with Rutger, but it's not recommended. About recruiting Kath. Not to mention you will need 2 thieves sometimes, and Kath is better than an untrained Chad. I don't know, man. As far as I know, there's no way they miss with lockpicks, so you can just use Chad. I like that he lists Firestone bonuses. That's not something that most guides do, I think. If you can find the time, you can try to bash in the wall on the east side and take out the Sleep Staff Priest and the Silverbow Sniper. That's a horrible idea. Just leave him be. About promotion items. A word of advice on using them. Knight Crest is for Cavaliers and Knights. If you're using one of your Knights and he, assuming you're not using Wendy since he's crap, is doing well, promote him first. However, when following this walkthrough, you should only have Alan and Lance as your Knight Crest user. Why would you use a general? You can also promote the good one between the two Cavaliers, assuming one got RNG screwed, and ditch the one that got screwed for the rest of the game. This means you will replace him by Percival, you mean with Percival, a pre-promote Paladin, and a good one at that, later on. And the problem with this method is that you will only have one Cavalier until Percival comes. Just keep the one that got screwed, and keep the support bonus that you grinded 90 turns for. Deke and Rutger are nearly non-negotiable with a C. If you must have a top recommendation for Hero Crest promotion, Rutger should be promoted by now, dude. He should be promoted by chapter 8. Lou is also able to use higher tomes than Clarine, because Clarine starts with an E anima level. I thought she kicked butt with anima magic. What's the problem? Elysian whips aren't a problem here. Both flyers you have now, that's Shanna and Tate, or I guess Thany is her name now. Both flyers you have now don't average very great stats. I mean, Tate does suck. About 12x, you can't see much due to fog of war, and you will get poisoned by lava gaps in the walls. What's a lava gap? I don't think that's lava that's coming out of those. Try to give EXP to unpromoted units that are not level 20 yet. Getting your thieves some EXP can be helpful. Helpful for what? You don't even need speed in this game. You can always steal from enemies, regardless of your speed. Okay, no joking, this is actually an issue for a lot of foreign people trying to speak English. I used to make these errors myself, actually. There's a druid near the hill where the throne is. Most of the time he will be healing enemy units you failed to finish off with his physics staff. So it kind of reads as if he's saying he will be healing enemy units that the player failed to finish off with his physics staff. As if the player was using his physics staff. It's so hard. English is hard. Percival and his units leave on turn 8 in chapter 13. You should be gone by the time you get near him. Yeah, if you play super slow like that, he will be gone, yeah. For fillers, there's level 20 Clarine to help healing when needed. How the hell do you get a level 20 Clarine at this point? So slow. Or you could bring Saul, since he will be of some use next chapter. I thought this was about this chapter, not next chapter. Like, imagine if Saul heals like 20 times in this chapter and it levels up 2 times. Does that make him much better for next chapter? Probably not. But since one of the Cavaliers has an X-Reaver using Alan, Lance, or even Borst or Barth, this guy must have been using Borst. There's no way you just keep dropping that name in here. It's chapter 13, man. And then build a wall. Who's gonna pay for it? Speaking of racist jokes, she comes with hard mode bonuses on top of her great bases, so nighttime she will be integrated with the rest of your army. I mean, that's not racist, but Cecilia joins right off the bat. Don't confuse her with Clarine if you already promoted her. Warp might be handy for visiting some secret shops or real emergency situations, but it's so insanely I can't speak. Warp might be handy for visiting some secret shops or some real emergency situations, but it's so insanely hard to get that you should probably just skip it. I don't think that's what they mean when they say warp skipping. Okay, so about the Brigand Berserker reinforcements. None of them have sword reavers, so just let your thief outrun them, or send swordsman company. If you're letting your thief outrun them, what does it matter what they have equipped? And how do you outrun someone in the sand? So many questions. 14x, a pretty easy map if you take your time, or if you use warp, but I guess we're skipping warp. For keeping Douglas busy, while a sword unit with little strength and a lot of dodge like Rutger seems like a good idea, you will be wasting a lot of weapon uses since this chapter takes a while and Douglas is not going to dodge anything. Man, what a big problem, wasting iron sword uses. You can also disarm a tank like Boris. Man, Boris is so useful. Generals are a great class. You can also use a sleep staff. However, the sleep staff works for 5 turns and has no more than 3 uses. So Douglas will only be inactive for 15 turns, assuming it hits each time. Man, 15 turns. That's a lot of turns. Sadly, Hammern cannot repair the sleep staff. I'm pretty sure it can. The third method is a little chaotic and will require some improvisation. If you look at the map closely, you will see that you can actually walk around this chapter in a full circle. This allows you to lure Douglas to one of your characters, close enough to let him walk to this unit, but far enough to stay out of range. Just walk around in the chapter, but try to make sure that no one else gets involved. So basically, you circle around the entire fucking map, but no one else can get involved. Fa will be somewhat impractical for most of this chapter. It's better to conserve her Dragonstone, please. This is like the best chapter to raise Fa. Or just bring her and soak up purge uses. Okay, about the Heavenly Arrows. They will knock off some HP. They will knock off some HP off everyone in that column. So make sure to heal in time if someone is wounded. Yeah, because we want to get Clary to level 20 again, I guess. The boss of 16x is pretty easy as well, since he's slow, uses an inaccurate and weak spell, has low defenses. Dude, he is a big pain in the ass. His luck is insane. Promoting Zeus now isn't a bad idea if he's level 15 or up. It won't make level 2020 in the end anyway, because the other units will make 2020, right? I guess if you reinforcement grind every fucking chapter. Su and Shin can lure a few nomads to relieve pressure. Seize as soon as possible. Yeah, that would be nice. That's good advice. About 20x, Saka. To beat this chapter, all you have to do is beat Marl, the druid with sleep and Fenrir. Dude, the boss you have to like beat and the gate you have to seize is random. Again, this is the problem if you write a walkthrough based on one playthrough. About chapter 21, Welcome to Hell. This chapter is, after chapter 7, the hardest one in the entire game. While it looks pretty quiet in the beginning, you will get swarmed by pretty quickly by the wyverns. Okay, let's redo that. Welcome to Hell. This is about chapter 21. This chapter is, after chapter 7, the hardest one in the entire game. While it looks pretty quiet in the beginning, you will get swarmed pretty quickly by wyverns. Weird, I never had that problem. You may even want to give Yodel a heal staff so you don't waste his recover, or God forbid Holy Maiden. Yeah, God forbid we use good weapons. The AI can really act up at this point. Quote unquote Gil may decide not to attack you at all. What do you mean quote unquote Gil? Is it not the real Gil? Is it like a clone? If you somehow have a bishop with S light magic, feel free to hurt Murdoch more with Aureola. Dude, just use the Armor Slayer. There's also some traps in the floor of 21x. You can't see where they are, but they should do 10 damage apiece every time you step on them. Because of all this, you should bring a thief to this chapter. He can disable traps, see through Fog of War and open the chests, or you can just warp. But I guess we're skipping the warp. Chapter 22, the last chapter you will play if you don't meet the requirements to progress beyond. See a previous section for those. A previous section, how very fucking helpful. Give Roy some swords to use besides his Sword of Steels too. Yeah, you don't want to waste a weapon with 20 uses. Even though there's like 4 chapters left at most. 3, really. Don't worry about too much about this game. It's easy as long as you take it slowly. Don't randomly bash into the throne room, or they will gang up on you. Yeah, don't randomly bash in anywhere. That's never a good strat. Chapter 22, or 23. You might want to bring the hammer and staff if some of your holy weapons are running low. I mean, this is technically true, but hammering is for warp, dude. Basically, you'll want to finish this map quickly. Kill the enemies that are in the way, and attack Brenya with your physical holy weapons while she still has bolting equipped. If you can let Roy kill her, all the better. No, that's an extra turn, no. Alright, final map choices. I can't wait for this. The top choices for Durandal are Rutger, Deke, or a Paladin. OJ or Fur will also work. I haven't read anything about a secret shop or boots, so I'm gonna disagree here. Gonzalez or Geese should wield arm mats. If you have a paladin or hero that has an S and axis, that is an option as well. Clarine is only going to reach S anima if you severely ward her weapon level. Man, I love using sex words. Aureola isn't going to be used at all for most players. This is true. Yodel is a crappy unit that ruins possible EXP gain. Apocalypse should be used by Ray. Sophia is crappy. Nime makes a sort of okay substitute, but it's very unlikely you made her attack enough to get an S in Dark. Then again, a filler healer like Nime or Yodel is never a bad idea. Okay, at least it's like a mediocre idea. Okay. It doesn't matter much who kills what. Great strategy. Congratulations, you have just beaten Fire Emblem The Sword of Seals in hard mode. I hope you find this walkthrough useful. I didn't, but thanks for watching anyway.